When the end came for the liberation tigers of Tamil Eelam in May 2009, it was cruel, unmerciful, and barbaric. Tamil tigers sought to establish an independent Tamil state, Eelam, in northern and eastern Sri Lanka. Even after a 26 years military campaign under the leadership of Velupillai Prabhaharan could not achieve it. Immediately following the end of the war, on 20th May 2009, the United Nations estimated a total of 80,000 to 100,000 deaths. To those who follow the human rights situation in Sri Lanka, its response to the above brutal killings was unsurprising. It routinely issued knee-jerk denials to allegations of abuses by its armed forces, no matter how compelling the evidence. Even in the case of Tamil fishermen who go for the fishing in the Park Bay region of the Indian Ocean, which is 50 to 80 kilometers wide, the Lankan Navy confiscates the fishermen's trawlers, destroy their costly fishing nets, and even shoot them to death. Whether it is LTTE or the fishermen, it is always the Tamils versus Sri Lanka. And now, all those innocent souls taking toll on the country, Sri Lanka. In the Holy Bible, the book of Genesis chapter 4, verses 10-11 says, "And God said to him, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the land. Now, therefore, you will be cursed upon the land, which opened its mouth and received the blood of your brother at your hand." The connotation of LTTE, Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, is changed. It is now Lanka's totally trapped economy. What LTTE could not achieve, China is easily achieving it through their economic invasion. Sri Lanka is currently facing its worst economic crisis since the country gained independence in 1948. Sri Lanka has fallen into a debt trap due to public investment projects sponsored by China as part of its Belt and Road Initiative, a long-term effort to fund and construct infrastructure linking China to the rest of the world. China is present in Sri Lanka for its own benefit rather than Colombo's. Hambantota project, the port developed with significant Chinese funding, has no commercial viability. But China persuaded Sri Lanka to proceed with the project. Sri Lanka borrowed heavily from China, unable to repay a loan of $1.4 billion in Indian value, rupees 11,200 crores. In Sri Lankan value, rupees 50,400 crores for the port construction in southern Sri Lanka. Colombo was forced to lease the facility to China's company, China Merchants Port Holding Company Limited, for 99 years in 2017. This was exactly what China had planned for and achieved it prudently. Despite this, the Sri Lankan government has further awarded the contract to the state-owned China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC, to build Colombo's eastern cargo terminal. It is also assigned with a new development project for 17-kilometer elevated highway in Colombo. The terms of the deal allow CHEC to own the highway, recover the principal, earn profits, and hand it over to the Sri Lankan government after 18 years. This makes the CHEC the first foreign company to own a highway in Sri Lanka. The CHEC is a subsidiary of state-owned China Communication Construction Company and has led several infrastructure projects in Sri Lanka, including Hambantota Port and Matala Rajapaksa International Airport. The Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), which is known as Chinese President Xi Jinping's signature initiative, is the center of Beijing's debt trap diplomacy in Sri Lanka. The United States and India warned that the Hambantota port, located along vital east-west international shipping routes, could give China a military toehold in the Indian Ocean. Both Colombo and Beijing have denied that Sri Lankan ports will be used for any military purposes. The Chinese cannot be relied or believed, and the Lankans, as they are under the patronage of China, their words have no value. China's strategy is like a two-edged sword: invasion of Sri Lanka and stop economic growth of India. China understood that India will not fall easily into their economic trap. Hence, they planned another move. That is to hinder the growth of economy and make the Indian government to buy war equipments instead. India is now one of the world's biggest spenders on defense and world's largest importer of military equipments and munitions. China is one of Sri Lanka's main sources of tourists. China closes all borders, no more Chinese tourists. Tourism revenue crashes by 93%. The situation in Sri Lanka today further scares away tourists from visiting the island and automatically accelerates the further decline of their economy. Sri Lanka imports more goods from China than from any other country. Sri Lanka and China have 65 years of diplomatic relations and 70 years of rubber rice pact. An agreement for Sri Lanka to supply rubber to China in exchange for rice. China's reputation is mired with the shipment of garbage quality fertilizer to Sri Lanka, and the case is pending in the court. Chinese firm has launched international arbitration against Sri Lanka in Singapore for rejecting the large consignment of its fertilizers and not arriving at an amicable solution. Sri Lanka is experiencing an acute economic crisis due to job and earning losses, high food inflation, and diminishing finances. According to the World Bank, inflation has been spurred by the government printing money to pay off domestic loans and foreign bonds. The deals between Colombo and Beijing has left a trail of corruption, debt trapping Sri Lanka. The transaction are corrupted to a very high magnitude that has ever occurred in the history of Sri Lanka. China's lending provides an avenue for influence to extract additional concessions such as access to natural resources, government contracts, and diplomatic support. Thus, the trapping net grows wider and broader. A Sri Lankan television channel reported seeing Chinese men in military-like attire cleaning an old irrigation tank in south of Sri Lanka. As per Sri Lankan law, wearing or even being in possession of a military uniform when not serving in the military is a punishable offence. Now, the Chinese find an exception to all these rules there in Sri Lanka. They are admired as if they are saviors of the country. China gave loans to the Mahinda Rajapaksa government at commercial rate of over 6% interest compared to the loan available from international entities at 0.01% to 1% interest, and thereafter entered into several other transactions on a slew of projects. The whole of Sri Lanka is completely controlled by Mahinda Rajapaksa and his family members, Marcos family of Sri Lanka. The money plays its game. Corruption in Lankan soil helps the invasion easier for China. Soon Sri Lanka will be under the complete control of China, invaded economically. The government officials in Lanka will be puppets dancing to the tunes of Chinese. Greed and ignorance spread like wildfires in Lanka. The current wall of debt that Sri Lanka has to surmount is 52 billion US dollars. In Indian value, rupees 4,16,000 crores. In Sri Lankan value, rupees 18,72,000 crores. The graves that Mahinda Rajapaksa has dug for the Sri Lankans are just too deep for them to be able to climb out of it. At present, only one possible solution left for Sri Lanka in order to get out of its debt trap by China. Sri Lanka is going to sell its land partially to China in order to pay its debts. Instead, it could give Tamils their rightful land and solve the crisis in a decent manner. This could attract help from world Tamils to pay their debts. Sri Lanka must give up its national identity and accept statehood in the Republic of India. The northern half of the island will be the state of Tamil Eelam with its capital as Batikola or Trincomalee as foreseen by Velupillai Prabhaharan and will be designated as the 29th state of the Republic of India. The remainder of the island will be designated as Sinkala Pradesh with its capital Colombo and become the 30th state of Republic of India. And after this, the first priority is to make the island independent of power generation. Sri Lanka needs nuclear power stations and India has expertise in setting these up in the neighborhood. The second most important economic reform is to gear up the manufacturing and service sector. The state of Tamil Nadu in India, that is right next door to Sri Lanka, is many miles ahead of Sri Lanka in these two sectors, as well as many of other areas such as automobiles, IT, etc. This is something only the government of India can provide at the moment in terms of expertise and loans. In fact, the government of Tamil Nadu itself can take this up with ease. The retrieval of the 285 acres Kachathivu Island, which is still subjudice in the Supreme Court of India, will be automatic. Face your future as the state of Republic of India without fear or hatred.